Our next guest is Danny Blanchflower, economics professor at Dartmouth College. He is a former Bank of England policymaker, and he is with us from Dartmouth's campus in New Hampshire this morning. Danny, always good to have you here. Let's talk about the EU. Those EU finance ministers sure are trying to put on a brave face. You had Jean-Claude Juncker, you had Olli Rehn making comments at a news conference after midnight in Brussels last night saying, it's okay, everything's all right with the euro, we're still one happy family, and this currency is going to bounce back. How much credibility do you give their statements, and where do you think things are going next?
Well, I don't give it very much credibility at all. I was on talking with you last week, talking about the package we had last week, which was inadequate, then a $1 trillion package over the weekend, which gave the markets a bump for about a day, and now we're back where we were. I think there are very deep crises within the euro area that the ECB hasn't really addressed. I mean, ECB went to this thing kicking and screaming. It was the politicians that went there, and I think the markets are fully, they fully realise that. So there are major problems there, and we've just seen a temporary palliative, and I think we're going to see many more days like this where we get to talk about the euro.
Well, Danny, I mean, what would you be saying if you were sitting right now on the ECB? What would your advice to the group be? What points would you be arguing for?
Well, I think I certainly would be having disagreements with the German foreign minister about what the ECB is about is controlling inflation, which is what Trichet said the other day. I mean, that's the economics of the Maginot Line, if you like. What we have to really think about here are rescuing the banks, dealing with this credit crisis, giving confidence back to the euro area, which they've not done. And I would be thinking about, let's think about how we can organise the next rescue package, which inevitably is going to come. We might as well plan for it now, and then we've got to think about where we're going from here. And I think there's major cracks.
Danny, given the fact that the EU does have that single inflation mandate, just how much flexibility will it have to be able to address the concerns that you just raised?
Well, it's going to have to start addressing them. And what happened last week, Trichet said on Thursday, I think it was, our job is to control inflation. Well, 2 days later, they did something completely different. So that mandate is obviously too tight. And in the UK, it's the same problem. You have inflation today, which went up to 3.7. And the worry would be, at a time when the government's tightening fiscally, that you end up seeing monetary tightening as well. So this coordination is going to have to happen, and these narrow inflation targets failed. So that a major rethink has to be about, what do we do about unemployment? What do we do about growth? That narrow target really hasn't helped anybody. It's made things worse.
You mentioned the inflation, Danny, statistic. There was also, of course, something on exports, which actually speaks to strength in the euro region. We have to expect that is because of the weakness in the euro. That's why exports came in so strong. But would you argue for the creation of a more centralized body to be making decisions, for example, not an IMF, but an EMF?
Well, I think you have to. I think if you think of an EMF, which is something that can react quickly to events, I think that would be really good. I mean, what we really have seen was the ECB took at least 6 months to deal with a crisis. Eventually, it had to do something, but it really needs, if you like, a task force that can react quickly. So I think that would probably be a sensible idea. But flexibility is the name of the game. What we've got is dogma, and the Germans pushing the classic German dogma of control inflation, but that's in a sense from a bygone day. And so so we're going to have to see adapting to change, or else the markets will do it for them.
Danny, very quickly, we've only got about 30 seconds left. Do you see the euro going to parity? And if so, can the EU possibly withstand it?
Well, I've been pretty bearish for a long time. I think it looks to me like down for quite a while to come. So parity may not be crazy. I just don't think. I think now we're in a position where it may be unstoppable.
Parity unstoppable. How about the EU? Is it going to break up? Is the common currency dead?
Well, that's a harder one to call. But I didn't think it was going to. But I'm more concerned and worried now that it may well do.